بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day, and let's begin without any delay. And so just moving forward, inshallah, since now the Iqamah time is at 3 o'clock, the plan is that we're starting next week. I know I announced it today, but I did not stick to my own schedule, subhanAllah. We're going to start right at 2:45, inshallah. We'll do the review questions, and then as soon as we're done the review questions, we go upstairs, pray Asr, and then after Asr, we actually begin the content of the lecture, okay? So that is, bi'idhnillah, the plan moving forward. So let's get started. So, and apologies, I realized yesterday that I had not sent the hadith or the questions to you guys. SubhanAllah. My only excuse is going to be I had, wallahi, a very heavy week past week. So alhamdulillah, but bi'idhnillah, we'll try to pay more attention to these things. So anyhow, why is the verse وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ repeated twice in Surah Al-Kafirun, which was our topic of discussion from last week? Yes? Very good. Okay, so this is one of the things. So two points to be mentioned here. First of all, it's a confirmation. Whenever you see, we mentioned two things. First of all, whenever you see two verses in the Quran repeated one after the other, it's almost always means that it's confirming something, it's emphasizing something. So وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ, and you do not worship what I worship. This is of course being addressed to the disbelievers of Quraysh. It's basically confirming that there is no doubt whatsoever that they are complete disbelievers. And as we had mentioned, those kuffar of Quraysh, they actually never ended up accepting Islam, those whom this surah was addressed towards. And as our friend mentioned, one of them is mentioned in the present tense, and another one is mentioned in the form of you never have and you never will worship what I worship. So one of them was saying you don't right now worship what I worship, and the other one is you never have and you never will worship what I worship. Okay? What are some lessons that we learned from Surah Al-Kafirun? We talked about several things. Yes? So not to associate partners with Allah. So basically, anybody who associates, even if they believe in Allah, even if they believe in Allah, yet they associate another entity with Allah, this person is not a worshipper of Allah. Remember? Because we mentioned that the Quraysh, they believed in Allah. The Quran even mentions that if you were to ask them, who created you? They would say Allah. If you were to ask them, who created the earth and who created the heavens? They would say Allah. So they believed in Allah. But their issue was that they believed that their idols they also had powers, and they also granted them certain powers. Okay? And therefore, just because they believe in Allah does not mean that they're worshipping Allah. Okay? And the same thing we mentioned can be applied for any other religion. Sometimes you might meet a Christian or someone from a different religion and they say, yeah, I believe in Allah. I believe in a almighty creator. But then of course, we say that our issue with you is not that you don't believe in an almighty creator. But our issue is that you associate a son with him, or you associate a partner with him, and so on. So this is one of the lessons that we learned from Surah Al-Kafirun. Of the lessons that we talked about as well is the importance, and we mentioned that every single Muslim, now the Surah Al-Kafirun was revealed to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he was informing him, go and say this to the kuffar. However, the Quran is not only for the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it is also to all of us. And so Surah Al-Kafirun is reminding you, you also, O believer in Allah, you also get out, and you also have an obligation, reject the disbelief of the people in front of the disbelievers in front of you, whether it is verbally or it is in your heart. So like if, for example, someone is having a discussion with you about religion, and this person is a non-Muslim, you have to tell them, look man, I'm sorry, I do not believe in what you believe. Okay? I cannot believe in what you are telling me to believe in. So we have to reject it verbally. And at the very least, within our hearts, we understand La ilaha illallah, and we do not allow for any opportunities for any kind of shirk or anything like this. Especially in the modern times, in our schools, they encourage this idea of, We're all worshiping the same God, but it's in different ways and shapes and forms, right? But in reality, no, ya akhi. There's only one way to worship Allah, and that is La ilaha illallah. And all the other ways are not worshiping Allah Azza wa Jal. And last but not least, we mentioned that the whole reason the surah got revealed was because the Quraysh were trying to negotiate a compromise. They said, you worship Allah, we worship Allah for 1 year, and you worship our gods for 1 year. So sometimes, now today, you won't have someone telling you this, but you might find someone else giving you a different kind of offer. Come and attend our events. And their events are maybe all about kufr and about things that Islam doesn't agree with. And in return, we will advertise Islam for you, we will allow you to do this, we will allow you to do that. There is no compromise when it comes to Islam. There is no sugarcoating when it comes to Islam. Islam is a package, okay? And our job is to deliver Islam exactly as it is without changing it or trying to make it more pretty or more beautiful than what it is. Because Islam is already beautiful. It doesn't need you to come and change it to sound better, okay? So your job is to deliver. Whether the person in front of you likes it or not, that's not your job. Guidance is in the hands of Allah. We talked about last week the hadith about how a person cannot enter Jannah by his good deeds, right? He says, aim for perfection, right? Aim for perfection and be happy, and know that none of you shall enter Jannah by their good deeds. Why can't a person, like, how does this make sense? What's the point of me doing all these good deeds then? Why can't a person enter Jannah by their good deeds? Yes, in the front. It's so okay. Yes, it's by the mercy of Allah that that a person enters Jannah. You wanna add on to that? So exactly, it links to the same point, right? A person only enters Jannah by the mercy of Allah. Okay, how do I obtain the mercy of Allah? By making Allah happy with you. How do you make Allah happy with you? By doing the good deeds. Okay, so you still have to do the good deeds, but the question here is, why is doing good deeds in itself not enough? The answer is actually very, very simple. Because think about the infinite blessings that Allah has given you. The blessing of the eye, the nose, the mouth, the food, the drink, the family, your own life in itself, breathing, oxygen, everything, everything. No matter how much you try to count, you will never be able to count the blessings of Allah. Now, if you're saying, "Oh, I want to enter Jannah by my good deeds," you're saying your good deeds are so much that they can pay off everything that Allah has given you. And this is impossible. Nobody, even if you worship Allah 24/7, we are human beings. We're not perfect in our worship of Allah. We sometimes feel tired. We need to sleep. Sometimes we're lazy. Sometimes we're not focused, right? So none of us here, we worship Allah perfectly. So how do you expect, when you don't worship Allah perfectly, to receive a reward that is literally eternity of happiness, eternity of infinite rewards, and anything that you wish for happens? And do you honestly think your salawat is enough for you to make you eligible for such an immense reward? That's like saying, oh, I got 90% on my math exam. Where's my $10 million reward? Get real, brother. No one's going to give you $10 million just because you did good on one math quiz that nobody's going to care about in the future, right? So this is the reality of the situation, right? Nobody enters Jannah with their good deeds, not even the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Rather, it is by the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the hadith we mentioned, it begins with observe moderation in doing good deeds. What does it really mean to be moderate in doing your good deeds? What does that mean? Yes? That's one aspect of it, but this is not really, this is a sincerity, not moderation. What does moderation mean? When we say be moderate in worshipping Allah, what does that mean? Yes? Not going to either extreme. So one extreme, we mentioned this last week, there is one end of the spectrum where you are completely lazy. Okay? You don't do anything, you don't do any good deeds, and you're like, oh, but Allah is the most merciful, Allah will be okay with me. This is called being lazy, and this is not obviously not good. But also there is the other extreme where you burn yourself out, right? You're like, khalas, every single night, I'm not even gonna sleep a single second because I'm gonna be up praying and reading Quran and doing all of this stuff. I am gonna fast every single day of my life without taking a single break. Like, come on, bro. Get real. You're not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. Nobody will be able to do it. This is way too much. This is way too much. And so the expectation is to be moderate. And so this is what the hadith is telling you. When it comes to worshipping Allah, aim to be perfect. Try your best to be perfect. Okay? When you come to pray your salah, try to pray your salah perfectly. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Nobody can achieve perfection. So try to the best of your ability to achieve perfection. Try to do the best as you can. Okay, maybe you're not able to pray Qiyamul Layl. You can get up at night in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and start praying to Allah. Maybe you're just not that kind of person. You don't have the energy. But maybe one thing you can do is to start taking your sunnah prayers a little bit more seriously. That, okay, you know what? I just prayed Maghrib prayer. Let me spend a couple of minutes after the salah to pray my sunnah. So maybe that's the limit of your ability. So every single one of us here, we have different levels. We're at different levels, right? Some of us, inshallah none of us here, but some of us may not be even praying our 5 daily prayers. And if you're one of those people, you need some serious work to do. And some of us, Allah Mubarak, we're already praying all of our fard, all of our sunnahs, but maybe we're not as good as praying Qiyamul Layl. So maybe that's something you need to work on. The point here is, at whichever level you are at, there is always something better that you can do to bring you closer to perfection, but you will never reach perfection. Does that make sense? Okay. Is it appropriate for a group of Muslims to recite Surah Al-Fatiha together at a funeral? Yes or no, and explain. What does none of you guys know? So right now, if you guys attend the funeral and someone says, "Yalla, let's recite Fatiha all together," you're like, "Yeah, sure, bro. What's the big deal? No problem." Yes. Because whoever teaches your father, they're getting so much points. Now, the statement that you said is correct. Okay, if you teach Surah Al-Fatiha to someone, you get a lot of hasanat. But that's not what the question is asking. It's asking specifically in the funeral. Yes? Jazakumullah khair. The answer is no. Realize that we only do things only if we see that Rasulullah doing it, or it is found in the Quran, or we see the Sahaba doing it. So I cannot come today and be like, "Oh, but I'm so sad for this person who just died. Let's all just read Al-Fatiha for this person." Like, why? Like, where did you get this from? Why Surah Al-Fatiha? Why not Surah Al-Baqarah? Let's all read Surah Al-Baqarah then. What is that person? Let's spend the next 3 hours reading Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay? So like, it doesn't make sense. Okay? You only do an action if it is something that is found from the Quran or the Sunnah. What is the Islamic ruling on placing a gravestone on a grave? Boys, I want some more participation. You guys are, yeah. There should be no writing or excellent. So the answer is, it is allowed to put a gravestone as long as there is no writing or engraving on it. The name of the person who's dead should not even be written there. No images, none of that stuff. And unfortunately, obviously, this is a common practice. We find it in a lot of graveyards, even the Muslim graveyards. But this is actually an incorrect practice to be done. So you can put a stone, okay, so that when you come to visit the graveyard, you're like, "Oh, I know that stone. Like, I know that, for example, that my relative is buried here because this is the stone that I put there." So you can use that stone to identify where he's buried. But there should be nothing on the stone to indicate who that person is, or worse than this, have any kind of pictures or fancy structures on the grave and stuff like that. That should not be there. Yeah. What did the Rasul ﷺ do when he noticed the counter attack of Quraysh? Yes? So he alerted the Muslims as loud as he could. All of the Muslims around him, he alerted them as loud as he could that, "Oh Muslims, you are being attacked by the Quraysh." And of course, we mentioned that this is, subhanAllah, so amazing because the Rasul ﷺ is the biggest target on the battlefield, right? They want to try and kill him. Yet, he is exposing himself, he's raising his voice, he's literally showing himself to the enemy so that he can save as many Muslims as he could. And we mentioned some stories of some of the Sahaba who got killed in the process, during this chaos in the battlefield. Of them was Al-Usayrim. His name is Amr ibn Thabit. And we mentioned that he will enter Jannah despite never having prayed an obligatory prayer. How is this possible? Yes, in the back? So, you want to add on to that? You're correct, but you're missing something. Yes? No, 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 no. That's not the answer. Yes? Yeah? He what? Sorry, before he passed away? Exactly, exactly. Okay. So he was a non-Muslim in the morning. Okay. In the morning when he died, he was a non-Muslim. And it was already past Fajr time. And then when he realized that everybody was at Uhud, he decided to convert to Islam. So he converted to Islam. He was a non-Muslim, he converted to Islam. Then he fought at Uhud and he got killed in Uhud. And he got killed before the time for prayer entered. Okay? So it's not because, oh, if someone does not pray but they get killed, they go straight to Jannah. No, if a Muslim does not pray, okay, and they're supposed to be praying, they're going to be questioned for that. But he is not going to get questioned because there was no prayer for him to pray anyways. Does that make sense? So that's the story of Al-Usayr. Any questions before we move on? Okay, so the next surah in line is probably an all-time favorite for everybody here in this room. Our favorite surah, which we probably read in every single salah, and that is, of course, Surah Al-Kawthar. Surah Al-Kawthar. And Surah Al-Kawthar, we mentioned it is 3 verses, just like Surah Al-Nasr, which we had previously covered. So it is tied as the shortest surah in the Quran, in addition to Surah Al-Asr. Al-Asr, Al-Kawthar, Al-Nasr, these surahs have 3 verses each. But in terms of shortest, in terms of length, Al-Kawthar is definitely the shortest. It's barely 1 line long, basically, like one and a little bit, right? So it's a very, very short surah. But it was also it was revealed down as a very optimistic surah. It was a very optimistic surah. It came down at a time where the Rasul was really sad. So what's the backstory here? We are told through many, many different narrations in different books of tafsir, but the gist of it is, we were told by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, that when the son of the Rasul sallallahu Abdullah, passed away. Pause here for a second. How many sons did the Rasul sallallahu have from Khadija radiallahu anha? From Khadija? 2. So throughout his lifetime he had 3. From Khadija radiallahu anha he had 2. What are their names? Obviously one of them is Abdullah. What's the other? Al-Qasim. Al-Qasim. And the third one who came later, anyone know? Ibrahim. Very, very good. We should all know this. This is my prophet and your prophet. So we should learn who his family is and who his kids are and who his wives are and so on. So he had a son named Abdullah, and he was like just a baby. None of his sons actually grew to become like a teenager or anything like this. They all died when they were babies. So this is still back in the days of Mecca, of course. Abdullah was born, and then shortly after his birth, he passed away. And of course, every single father would grieve and he would be very sad over the death of his own son. Now imagine the feeling that as you are sad, your own son passed away. Okay? Like imagine, obviously none of us here, the majority of us here are kids, you guys are not married and you don't have kids. Okay? But imagine, for example, that you lose a father or a mother, and now you're extremely sad and you're depressed, and your worst enemy out on the street is happy. And they're celebrating this. And they're like, oh, look, his kids passed away. And they're happy about this. And they're saying, and they started calling him Al-Abtar. The Quraysh, the leaders of Quraysh, they started calling him that, oh, he is now Al-Abtar. They were happy about this. What does Al-Abtar mean? The one who is now cut off. What does it really mean to be the one who is cut off? It means that, oh, they now think that because his sons have all passed away, he's not going to have any grandchildren and great grandchildren. He's not going to have any progeny after him. Okay? Like, khalas, his family bloodline is going to get cut off from here. And that once he dies, khalas, he's all done, and Islam is going to be all done. There's no bloodline for him left. So the Quraysh were happy at this. And of course, little did they know that in the future, Fatima radiallahu anha would get married to Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anha, and they would have, of course, Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein and the progeny. To this day, there is someone out there, somewhere in the world, whose bloodline actually connects directly with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, none of us know who that is. But the point is that they would mock him and they would say that you are Al-Abtar. And obviously, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a human being, okay? And this makes him really, really hurt and really, really sad. So close to this incident, we don't know when, but we can imagine probably close to when this was happening. It is mentioned that Rasulullah was sitting one day with his companions and he took a nap. And then he woke up shortly from his nap as he was smiling. And then he was asked that, Ya Rasulullah, why are you smiling? He says, because a surah was just revealed to me. Which surah was revealed to him? He says, the surah of إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. So the word al-abtar is found in Surah Al-Kawthar. And we're going to get to that in a second. So this is kind of like a brief backstory of why was Surah Al-Kawthar revealed. So what does the actual surah mean? That's what we're going to go into. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ. Inna translates to indeed we have. Okay, indeed we. Like inna, it's like for example, if I want to tell someone that we sat here today in the basement and we learned something new about Islam, I would say, for example, to someone, inna, okay? Inna, like ta'allamna or something, like we have learned. So with the word, the pronoun which is used for we, and to like, not just to say we, but rather to say that definitely we, okay? This is what inna translates to. أعطيناك, أعطى is the verb of to give. أعطيناك, we have given you, okay? We have given you Al-Kawthar. What does Al-Kawthar mean? Literally translates to the abundant goodness. Abundant means like lots and lots and lots, okay? Huge amount. And goodness is just obviously goodness, like good things, okay? So that the translation of the verse is, we have definitely given you lots of goodness. This is the translation of the actual verse. However, the Rasul ﷺ clarifies this for us, and this is of course where scholars of Tafsir, they differ. What exactly is Al-Kawthar? And there's many, many, many different tafsirs for what is Al-Kawthar. And we're not going to dive into every single tafsir of what is Al-Kawthar. We'll just go based on some of the ahadith that we find. The Rasul ﷺ, he says in a hadith, Al-Kawthar, he defines it for us, and he says, it is a river in Jannah. Al-Kawthar is a river in Jannah. Its banks, like meaning the edges of this river, is made out of gold. And the water flows over pearls, meaning like, you know how if you like go on Bow River, for example, and you like dip your feet inside the river, it's obviously sand and gravel underneath the river, right? Like, and some rocks or something, right? So the rocks of the river of Al-Kawthar are made out of pearls, so precious materials. And the water is not the water that you know here in this world. SubhanAllah, this is one of the beautiful things in Jannah. And the scholars, they tell us, Jannah is nothing like what you imagine. Like whatever you imagine, whatever you think about Jannah, Jannah is not that. Jannah is something that you cannot possibly imagine. The only thing that we really know about Jannah is that it is called Jannah. And no matter what you try to think about Jannah, you know, we say, for example, river in Jannah. When we think river, we like, oh, like river, it's like water that's flowing down the hill or like down, you know, like Bow River, for example. But rivers of Jannah is not like that. When we say about food of Jannah, you might start thinking, oh, okay, apple, fruits, vegetables, sweets, whatever it is, that's what your mind goes to. But the food of Jannah is nothing like the food of this world. Everything that you can imagine and think about Jannah is something completely different. SubhanAllah, so this is one of the beauty of Jannah. So we are being told that the Jannah, the water in Jannah, in the river of Al-Kawthar, is not a clear, transparent water. It's actually a white-looking water. It's a milky-looking water, okay, whiter than milk, and the taste of it is sweeter than honey. So this is one hadith that tells us a snapshot of what exactly is this Al-Kawthar. In a different hadith, we are told that Rasulullah, this is close to his death, he says to the believers, he's addressing the believers, and he says to them, I will reach Al-Hawd. He calls it Al-Hawd, ahead of you. Like, I will be at Al-Hawd. What is Al-Hawd? Close translation is the pond. So it's interesting. One hadith calls it a river, and another hadith refers to a pond called Al-Kawthar, a body of water called Al-Kawthar. The scholars, they combine these two together, and they say that at the beginning of at the entrance of Al-Jannah, okay, or at some point there is a pond connected to the river of Al-Kawthar that is actually inside Jannah. Does that kind of sort of make sense? So they say that basically that the actual pond is not in Jannah. It's somewhere outside Jannah. But the river, it connects to the river which flows in Jannah. So he's telling the believers, on the day of judgment, wait for me at Al-Hawd. If you want to look for me, come and meet me at the pond of Al-Kawthar. And we are told from different hadith that of the events that will take place on the day of judgment, obviously is the resurrection. Every single person will come out of their grave, and they will realize that this is the day of judgment. And every person probably has spent, Allahu A'lam, maybe thousands of years in the grave. When you spend thousands of years without drinking water, you're pretty thirsty, man. Very, very thirsty. So everybody's going to be thirsty. And so the disbelievers, of course, they will not have a source of water, and they will remain thirsty forever. Whereas for the believers, they will be guided to a source of water. What is that source of water? The Hawd. The Hawd, the pond of Al-Kawthar, where the Rasul ﷺ will be, and he is actually going to be calling out to you, come over here, come over here, come drink your water. And there's so many cups that's enough to feed everybody, basically. Everybody is going to have his own cup. No, don't worry, you're not going to have to drink from the same cup as the mouth of someone else that you don't know. Okay, so everybody's going to have his own cup, and everybody's going to drink. Every believer, inshallah, and inshallah, we're all among those people. We're going to be drinking from the Hawd of Al-Kawthar. So obviously, Al-Kawthar, whatever the actual meaning of Al-Kawthar is, it's something really, 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 really good. Okay, and it's meant to give good news for the Rasul ﷺ. Like, he's feeling really upset, and he's feeling really hurt and depressed right now. His son just passed away, and now he's being told, we have given you Al-Kawthar. We have given you a reward beyond your imagination. Al-Kawthar, a whole river just after you, just for you. And so this is one interpretation of what is Al-Kawthar. Inna a'tainaka Al-Kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar. Fasalli, the fa here means so. That because this is the case, now as a result of this, ... Okay? So fa, salli. Salli comes from salah. Right? Salli is a command. Go and pray. So therefore, because now we have given you Al-Kawthar, go and pray. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ, pray to your Lord. وَانْحَرْ, and sacrifice. وَانْحَرْ comes from the verb nahara, from nahr. And of course, one of the days of Yawm al-Eid, Yawm al-Adha, is called Yawm al-Nahr, right? I don't know if you guys know this or not, and hopefully you guys do. Yawm al-Nahr is another day for Eid, is another name for Eid al-Adha. It is the name, the day of sacrifice, the day of slaughtering. Okay, so basically the rough meaning of this verse is saying that, Ya Rasulullah, because now we have given you Al-Kawthar, go and pray to your Lord and sacrifice. So it's very interesting here. It's first of all showing us the status of prayer and the status of sacrifice, and introducing us to the concept of whenever you receive really good news, you should do actions to thank Allah Azza wa Jal. Of the actions that you could do is sujood al-shukr, right? Or you could do salah and do sacrifice. Many people, they underestimate this act of sacrifice. Okay, taking sacrificing a camel or a cow or a sheep or a goat or something like this. This is one of the most noble and one of the highest and most rewarding deeds that you can do. Because first of all, you're sacrificing something for the sake of Allah. You're honoring Allah Azza wa Jal. And typically, this meat is feeding your family and feeding the people who are needy as well. So these are one of the most honorable actions that you can do. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Inna means indeed, for sure. Okay. Shani'aka means your enemy. Shani'aka is your enemy or those who are against you. Okay. Huwa means he is. Al-abtar. We already mentioned this, the one who is cut off. So, inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar, it's actually a consolation for the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's a defense. It's defending the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you see, Rasulullah, those people who are mocking you and calling you al-abtar, your enemy is the one who is al-abtar. Your enemy, they are the ones who are al-abtar. They are the ones who are completely cut off. And subhanAllah, it's so amazing to think about this today. This surah was revealed at a time and a place where Islam was almost unknown. Nobody in the world knew anything called Islam. Nobody in the world knew anything called Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even in Mecca at this time, it was still pretty early on, and there weren't as many Muslims at the time, right? It was a very small number of Muslims, and the bulk of, maybe the number of Muslims is equal to the number of people in this room. That's how many Muslims there were in the entire world. So, but Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, Ya Rasulullah, you're not going to be the one who's forgotten and cut off. They are going to be the ones who are forgotten and cut off. And subhanAllah, it's so amazing to think about this today. Almost every single person on this world, whether they are Muslim, whether they are non-Muslim, whether they like Islam or whether they don't like Islam, they have heard the name Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whether they like him or they don't, this is not the issue. Some people, they hate him. Some people, they mock him. But the point is, they've heard of him. They know that he's a big deal when it comes to Islam. And this is amazing to think about when this surah time when nobody knew what he was who he was. Whereas the enemies of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, today nobody knows their names. Or rather, only the people who have actually attended Seerah classes and read books of Seerah, and they've heard the name of Umayyah ibn Khalaf, Abu Jahl, Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt, and all of these different names. Unless you actually go out of your way to learn these names, many people, they just know that, oh, there were some people that hated the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam back then, but we don't even know who they are. And we don't even know who their sons are and who their families are. That's even if they still are alive to this day. So subhanAllah, look how the promise of Allah came true at a time when nobody could have predicted that. This surah came down at a time when people like Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab and these really big enemies of Islam, they were very well respected. Everybody respected them and their families and their sons. Whereas the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was being mocked and persecuted. And look, thousands of years later, how the tide has turned. Subhanallah. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. So we'll conclude. What are some lessons, girls? Some lessons that we can learn from Surah Al-Kawthar. And this is, of course, the whole point of us going into the tafsir of the Quran. First of all, it's a reminder for the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was a consolation for him that you should remain patient and stay positive. You shouldn't be happy. You shouldn't be hurt. You shouldn't be sad and upset and depressed. You shouldn't be hurt by these people. Why? Because you have Al-Kawthar waiting for you. Just be a little bit more patient. Wait for a few more years. Endure it. Be patient. Trust Allah Azza wa Jal, because you're going to have Al-Kawthar at the end. So now the surah is not revealed يعني spoken to me, but the Quran is speaking to me, right? إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ. Okay? So similarly for us, every single one of you right now, everyone here is going through something. Boys, why is there too much talking, too much movement in the back? Those of you who are talking in the back, I'm just going to ask you to please step out of the room. You're being very disruptive. Yeah, Habibi, you're turning your head in the back. I'm asking you to leave the room. Still looking behind. Can someone tell the guy who's looking behind to look in the front? Yes? You want to leave the room, my friend? Jazakallah khair. Yes, I'm talking to you, my friend. You can go ahead and leave the room, please, because you're disrupting everybody around you. Thank you very much. Anyways, so it is teaching you. Look, every single one of you here today, you might be going through something. I don't know what that is. Okay? Maybe you have issues when it comes to dealing with your parents. Maybe you're having issues at school. Maybe you're struggling with something. Okay? Life is not always easy. Okay? There's always something that's on your mind. There's something stressing you out. Something that's weighing you down. What this surah is coming to tell you is stay positive. There's always good that will come out of whatever you're going through right now. Always keep your eye on the reward, right? Always keep your eyes on the big reward. That will motivate you to keep going. Like, ask yourself right now, as you are going through whatever you're going through, ask yourself, don't I want Jannah? Don't I want to be with the Rasul and the Sahaba? Don't I want to earn the highest levels of Jannah and whatnot? If the answer is yes, and inshallah the answer is yes for all of us, then be patient in whatever you are going through and stay positive, because something good will always come after that. This is one of the most important teachings we learn from the surah. It's telling you to be optimistic. Okay? And it's telling you, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. And specifically, out of all of the good deeds that you can possibly do, salah and nahr are mentioned. Salah, we all know what is salah, the prayer. Nahr, we mentioned it is a sacrifice. Okay? Whether it is you literally taking the knife and going to a farm and sacrificing an animal, okay, if you have the guts to do that, or by paying someone, once you have some money, I know you guys are broke right now, once you have some money to go and pay someone to tell that person, you know what, go and sacrifice a sheep for me and give me the meat once you finish sacrificing it, or something like this. But the point here is that these two deeds are mentioned out of all of the other deeds that exist in Islam. So it is telling you the status of these deeds. So therefore, when you want to thank Allah Azza wa Jal, or to honor Allah, or you want something really good happen to you, and you want to show Allah how grateful you are, out of all of the deeds, now you can do, of course, many things. You can give sadaqah, you can do sujood al-shukr, you can do anything. But out of all of these, salah and sacrifice are mentioned. So we should try to also incorporate that when it comes to being grateful to Allah. And lastly, إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. Your enemies are the one who are forgotten. It shows us that Allah Azza wa Jal sees everyone and He hears everyone. And Allah Azza wa Jal does not leave the reward of someone who does good unpaid and unreturned. Meaning, if you are someone, you are worshipping Allah, and you are following the commandments of Allah, and you're doing your obligations, and you are following the sunnah, and you're respecting and following the teachings, and you're trying to learn more, and you're trying your best to become a good Muslim, Allah shall honor you. Allah shall show you honor in this world and shall honor you in the hereafter. But also in this world, people will respect you. People will like you. People will, even if they don't follow the religion, they will respect you for who you are. Wallahi. And please, by the way, keep this in your mind. Because today we're living obviously in a non-Muslim country. And the majority of the people out there in the streets, they are non-Muslims. And many Muslims, they feel this pressure that I need to change whom I am in front of these people so they can respect me, so they can, so that, they can like me and I can, blend in with them. If you want these people to respect you, then show them what you stand up for. I promise you. Show them what you stand up for. Show them that I'm a Muslim. Show them that there are things that I can do and other things that I'm not allowed to do because of my religion, because Allah told me to do so. Have pride in your religion. Walk the streets as a proud Muslim, proud that you were chosen to be a Muslim. Avoid when your friends try to drag you into something which is haram. They don't know it's haram. They're not Muslim, but you are a Muslim. You tell them, sorry, bro, I'm a Muslim. I cannot do this. I promise you, you might think Shaitan may let you think that, oh, if you do this, it's gonna make it awkward. They're gonna look down on you. They're gonna be like, yo, what the heck? This guy is a little weird. He doesn't want to hang out with us or whatever. That's not the case. The bulk of the people will respect you for standing up for who you are. And they may even start asking you questions about your religion. They're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that about Islam. I didn't know. They would usually tell you, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Maybe they will tell me more about your religion. Tell me more, what are some things that you can do and what you cannot do. You may actually be the reason of someone accepting Islam simply because you honor the teachings of Islam, and you honor Allah, and you honor the Rasul ﷺ, and you stand up for who you are. But as soon as anybody dishonors Allah, or dishonors the Rasul ﷺ, or dishonors the teachings of Islam, then Allah shall dishonor them in this world and in the hereafter. This person will become disgraced in front of the people, and will become disgraced definitely on the Day of Judgment. Even in front of the people, this person will become disgraced. Because think about it. Someone might say to themselves, someone out there, may Allah guide all of us and guide, the sinners out there as well. But there might be Muslims out there who call themselves Muslims, but they go to the bar and drink alcohol. Just so they can be part of the squad, they can be part of the friend group, and they want to be hanging out. You think these non-Muslims don't know that as a Muslim you're not supposed to drink? What do you think now they will think about this person who's a Muslim and he's drinking alcohol in front of them? On the outside, they might be acting all friendly, and the inside, they have no respect for him. Like, what kind of person is this? He claims he's a Muslim, and he doesn't even follow his own religion. He doesn't have anything. As soon as you shake him up a little bit, as soon as you sweet talk him a little bit, he's quick to give in, and he's quick to throw away what he stands up for, and he's quick to throw away his identity. People will lose respect for you, and more importantly, you dishonor yourself in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So this is an important reminder that Rasulullah faced a lot of pressure. The Sahaba faced a lot of mockery and bullying and all sorts of harm, yet none of them ever stood down. None of them ever abandoned or they gave in or they compromised or any of that stuff. Why? Because they know that their honor comes in Islam. And when they honored Islam, Allah Azza wa Jal honored them. Such that to this day, our names, 1,400 years later, their names continue to be mentioned in the Hadith, in lectures like this. Who could imagine? But do you think they could have ever imagined that 1,470 years later, we will be sitting here in the Southwest Masjid basement discussing their stories and discussing what they went through and things? Nobody would have ever imagined. But this is what happens when you sincerely honor the religion of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So this is kind of the brief tafsir of Surah Al-Kawthar. Any questions? No questions? Okay. Moving on, inshallah. The hadith for this week, which again, apologies, I forgot to share it in the group. Inshallah, that will not happen again. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال لا يلدغ المؤمن من جحر واحد مرتين. Very beautiful hadith. Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, he narrates from the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, a believer is not stung out of the same hole twice. A believer is not stung from the same hole twice. So what does this really mean? It's kind of a cryptic hadith. Its meaning is not as obvious. But before we dive into the meaning, we gotta introduce the context of this hadith. What happened? When did this hadith actually get said? We are told of an incident that took place in the Seerah. And we actually mentioned this incident briefly in the Seerah back when we were discussing the Battle of Badr. And we were discussing the incident of the prisoners of war in the Battle of Badr. We mentioned that one of the prisoners who were captured from the Quraysh by the hands of the Muslims was a man by the name of Abu Azza. His name was Abu Azza, and he was a poor man from Quraysh, and he was a poet. You all know what is a poet, right? Someone who writes poetry. So he used to be a poet, and he used to write certain things against Islam. So when he was captured in the Battle of Badr, he asked the Rasul ﷺ for mercy. And he said to him that, "Oh Muhammad, you know me, I come from a poor family. I don't really have anyone who can pay my ransom. I don't have any sons. I only have daughters." Back in the day, they took pride in their sons. He's like, look at me. I'm not in the top class. I'm in like the lower class of Mecca. There's no way for me to pay this ransom and to set myself free. So the Rasul ﷺ, out of his mercy, he said, "Okay, you know what? We'll release you for free. You don't have to even pay a single dollar. We'll let you go for free. But there's a condition. There's a condition. From now on, you are no longer allowed to write anything against Islam and against the Muslims, nor should you ever be seen ever fighting against Islam and the Muslims." Okay? So he said, "You're free to go, but from now on, we should never ever see you or hear you doing anything against the Muslims to harm them." So Abu Azza says, "Okay, deal." And so he left. And then a year later, guess who gets captured again in the Battle of Uhud? None other than Abu Azza. And subhanAllah, this is Allah's qadr. As we just mentioned, you dishonor Allah, Allah dishonors you. Out of everybody in the Battle of Uhud, only one prisoner was captured from the Quraysh, and that was Abu Azza. And the same story again, he repeats himself. He goes and he begs for mercy and he says, "Please let me go for free." But then the Rasul ﷺ tells him this statement: "A believer is not stung from the same hole twice." And he commanded for Abu Azza to be executed. There was no mercy this time. So with that backstory in mind, maybe now the meaning of the hadith starts to click a little bit. What does it really mean? There is a statement. I don't know if you guys have heard a statement here. It's a saying here in the West that we sometimes hear. Have you guys ever heard when someone tells you, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me"? Have you guys ever heard that before? Yeah? So there's a saying here. It's nothing to do with Islam, but they say this here. So subhanAllah, even the meaning of this hadith is understood by people here. They say, "Fool me once, shame on you." Okay? So like you deceived me, you did something to deceive me, and you should not have done that, so shame on you. But fool me twice, shame on me for being deceived again after you deceived me the first time. Does that kind of make sense? So in a nutshell, this is also the meaning of this hadith. A believer does not get stung from the same hole twice. And this hadith is telling you, when you live your day-to-day life. So this hadith is a little bit different from the hadith that we've discussed, talking about, this thing is haram or backbiting or whatnot. It's telling you about your day-to-day behavior. When it comes to dealing with anybody, okay? Even your closest of friends, or someone at school, or with your teachers, or even in the future at work, or anyone, okay? Always have a part of you that is careful, okay? Always act smart, okay? Be smart, but don't be naive. Don't act based on your whims and desires. And you're like, "Oh no, bro, that guy, I trust him 100%. Blindly, I trust him, no matter what he does." There has to be an aspect of carefulness with everybody around you, by the way. I'm telling you, with everybody, even with me. You dealing with me, don't simply blindly accept that, "Oh, this guy, khalas, 1000%, whatever, I will trust my life with him." Okay? Always be cautious, okay? Don't act dumb. So always act intelligently. And this applies both when it comes in the matters of this world and in the matters of the hereafter as well. So basically, always whenever you are faced with any kind of situation, and I'll give examples inshallah, so maybe this will make a little bit more sense to you. Whatever situation you find yourselves in, weigh your options, okay? Look at what are the options that I can make for this decision. And for every decision, weigh the benefits and the harms. Weigh the benefits and weigh the risks. And take the decision that is the most intelligent decision for your case. Okay? And in the case where you make a decision and you find yourself getting hurt because of that decision, then at least learn from your mistake. Let me give you guys an example, a very, very simple example. Okay, let's say you have, I don't know, some, so your classmate, Mr. Bob. Okay, there's Bob. You have a friend called Bob at school. He's in the same class as you, and Bob comes to you. He's like, "Yo, bro, please, I need $10 from you right now. I need you to give me $10, and I promise I'll pay you back tomorrow." And Bob is a good friend of yours. You've known each other for for a long time. So you're like, "Okay, Mr. Bob, here's $10 for you, but please give it back to me tomorrow." So you thought about it in your head. You're like, "Okay, Bob is a good friend of mine. Chances are, I'm gonna choose to trust this guy. I'm gonna give him the $10." So Mr. Bob takes your $10 and he disappears. And you wait tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, he doesn't show up. The day after comes, he doesn't show up. The day after comes, he doesn't show up. A week passes, he doesn't show up. And maybe he comes to you and then he gives you an excuses. He tells you, I was really in a really tough time. I was sick. Oh, something happened to me. Oh, I completely forgot. Oh, I was really busy. Oh, I had this and that. Okay? So you got stung by Bob. Right? You just got stung by Bob. You trusted Bob, and Bob did not fulfill his promise to you that he will return this money. Now, a month later, khalas, you're like, okay, whatever, $10, it is what it is. Alhamdulillah. Month later, Mr. Bob comes to you again. And he's like, "Bro, you really, really, really need to help me this time. I'm going to be in so much trouble. I need $10 from you, please. And I promise you this time, I will definitely, 100%, I will pay you back." That's when a person says, a believer is not stung from the same hole twice, yeah. So, doesn't mean that you're like, "Get away from me, you scammer, you liar, you cheater." You don't say that. So a believer still has his manners, his character, his behavior. So you may politely tell him, "You know what, I'm sorry, bro, I don't want to lend you money this time, but if there's any other way that I can help you, then let me know." Right? So be smart about how you respond, be elegant in how you respond, but at the same time be intelligent and cautious. Because you're not going to be so naive as to be like, "Okay, you saw how this person scammed you the first time. You're like, "Okay, Habib, tfaddal, another $10, and he disappears at you again, and then he comes back to you again, and then he now abuses you because he sees, he's like, "Oh, this person's a pushover. I can just beg him and ask him and show him a tea here and there, and then he'll khalas believe me and whatnot," right? So a believer learns from his first mistake, and he does not allow himself to get deceived twice by the same person. Does that kind of little bit make sense? Okay. I'll give another example just in case the first one did not make sense. So let's say, for example, I don't know, you were doing a group project at school, and maybe this is a scenario many of us are going to run into. You're doing a group project in school, and then one of your classmates, so you sit with your group of 4 people, for example, and you're like, "Okay, you do this part of the project, you do this part of the project, you do this part, I'll do this part. And let's put it all together in this date." You guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's probably happened to every one of us. And there's always that one person in the group that does not do his work. Or he just disappears. Or he does not respond to your messages. You try to call them, they don't respond to your calls. You see them at school, they're like, yeah, bro, I'll work on it today. I promise I will send you the work later today. And then they don't do the work. And so you end up having to do the work. You end up having to do double the work so that you can finish the project. But then, when it comes to the time for you to hand in the project to your teacher, they make sure that their name is written on the project. And they're like, "Yo, bro, please, I was really busy. I had something going on. My life was just a big mess. I just really couldn't. I tried my best. I was gonna do it, but then you did it before me, right?" So they try to sneak in their name. So, maybe the first time they get away with it, and you're like, but hopefully by that first time you've learned your lesson that, okay, this person, they're not a hard worker, and this person is going to take advantage of you, and they're going to take credit for the work that you have done so they can get their grades. So if this person in the future comes to you and asks you, "Hey, can I join your group for the group project after this happened to you?" Would you say yes? Absolutely not. Hopefully you would say no. Okay? And this is the whole point here. Why did you say no? Because you got stung once by this person. This person deceived you. You thought that they were going to do work. They did not end up doing anything. And they took advantage of you. So at the very least, this happened. You got hurt by it. But at least don't allow this person to hurt you again a second time. So does that sort of make sense? So this is how it applies in a worldly perspective, in our day-to-day lives. But it also applies in our deen as well. This also applies in our religion. How so? Well, Shaitan's mission is to deceive you and to trick you and to promise you. What does Shaitan promise you? The Quran tells us, Shaitan decorates a sin for you. Think about it. SubhanAllah, think about it. Think about how many things in the world are halal and how many things in the world are haram. If you were to look at the list of things which are haram, it's a very small, tiny list. It will fit on your phone in one screen. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And the list of things which are halal, you can keep writing on and on and on and on and on, and it will not finish. There's millions of things in the world which are halal today. And the list of haram is very, very small. What does Shaitan do? He comes to trick you. And he tells you, bro, you see this? Yes, there's a million things which are halal, but you see that one thing here which is haram? Oh, bro, you're missing out. It's a lot of fun. It's not that big of a sin. Anyways, you can come and do it, and then maybe do istighfar later. You can do the sin, and then make wudu later and pray, and then ask Allah to forgive you the sin. But don't cause yourself, don't prevent yourself from falling into that sin, because it's so much fun. You will find so much enjoyment in it. You will find so much happiness in it. Look at these people, the non-Muslims who are doing this haram. Look at how much fun they are having. Look at you, poor Muslim. You're not doing it just because someone told you that it's haram. So this is what Shaitan does. He takes a sin, something which is haram, and he decorates it for you. He makes it look like you were missing out on the biggest thing possible. He makes it look like, bro, if you just do it one time. Just do it one time and make istighfar. But you'll enjoy it so much. But of course, this is the deception of Shaitan. This is like that group project member, right? They tell you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They give you promises until they get you to trust them. And so they cause a person to fall into a sin. The Shaitan causes the person to fall into that sin. What does Shaitan do when the person commits a sin? He runs away from it. And he says, no, you did the sin, not me. Did I force you? Did I tell you have to do it? It was you who did it. And that's exactly, by the way, what Shaitan will say on the Day of Judgment. And this is found in the Quran, by the way. He will say, imagine Shaitan will make an excuse in front of Allah against you. And he say, oh Allah, I did not have any control over that person. All I did was I invited them. I whispered to them. I sent them an invitation letter. They accepted the invitation and they fell into the sin. So, oh Allah, don't blame me. Blame that person who fell into the sin. This is what Shaitan will say. And guess what? In that situation, Shaitan is absolutely right. It is you who fell into that sin. But this is how Shaitan deceives you. So just like how you would learn your lesson if someone scams you $10 and then doesn't pay you again and asks you for money and you don't fall into that trap again, just like how that group project member, took advantage of you and he's trying to take advantage of you again, and you know better, okay, you know what, I'm not going to be part of the group project. Then how come when it comes to Shaitan, he deceives me once, twice, 3, 10, 100, 1,000 times, and I keep falling into the same trap over and over and over and over. La ilaha illallah. How is it that I learn from my mistake in front of people once? But with Shaitan, no. I keep falling into the sin again and again and again and again. Shaitan is stinging you. He got you stung. He tricked you the first time you fell into the sin. You felt really, really, really bad after that. So you repented for that sin. But ideally now, you repented as part of repentance in order for that repentance to be accepted in the first place. The definition of repentance is that you feel regret over that sin and you don't come back to it again. What's the point of me regretting my sin and say, oh Allah, please forgive me, I did the sin, I did something I should not have done. And then 2 hours later, guess what? You're doing that sin again. How is that repentance? This is shaitan now playing games on you and stinging you not once, he's stinging you 10 times. So therefore, even in the matters of our religion, a Muslim, a believer, learns from his mistakes. And again, to re-emphasize, humans are not perfect. Everybody is going to fall into mistakes. But the point here is what are you going to do with that mistake now? You fell into the sin. The sin is done. The deed has been committed. What are you going to do now that you have committed that evil deed? Are you going to do it again? Or are you going to repent? What are you going to do? A believer does not get stung from the same hole twice. Any questions about this hadith? Yes? No? Question? So this hadith inshallah will be shared on the group chat hopefully by the end of the day today, bi'idhnillah. And we will discuss it bi'idhnillah next week. What was the reason behind the revelation of Surah Al-Kawthar? Yes? No. What happened to cause it to be revealed?
The Quraysh, they were calling songs from all the sons of God.
Exactly. So they were mocking him and they were calling him Al-Abtar because his son Abdullah had just passed away. What exactly is Al-Kawthar? Yes? A lake, a river in Jannah. Okay. Abundant goodness, and of course it is the pond, the hawd on the day of judgment, and the river in Jannah. What is the meaning of Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar? Boys, I want to see some more participation. Those of you in the middle, I'm going to pick on someone. Yes? Very good. So it's the enemies of the Prophet ﷺ who are forgotten and cut off from Allah's mercy. What are some lessons that we learn from Surah Al-Kawthar? Give me anything that we've... Yes? Yes? To be positive, right? Always don't allow anything to get you down. Keep your eyes on the reward. We mentioned prayer and sacrifice and the importance of doing them, and the importance of honoring Allah and the religion of Allah. What is the backstory behind the hadith of a believer is not stung from the same hole twice? Yes, in the back? Abu Azza? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Excellent, very good. So we mentioned the story, the poet who begged for mercy after being caught in the Battle of Badr, and he was released. And then he got caught again fighting against the Muslims in the Battle of Uhud, but this time he was not released, he was executed. What is the primary lesson behind this hadith? What's the main thing that we're learning here? Yeah? Yes? Exactly. So it's a lesson to us: act smart and act careful, so that at least if you get stung by anyone, you don't get stung twice. You don't allow yourself to get deceived again. How does this hadith apply to a believer falling into sins? Boys, you guys are just chilling in the back, or what? I want to see some participation. Huh? Someone else from the boys. I'm going to pick randomly if nobody raises their hand. Yes, in the back. So very good. It's telling us, right? You should not get stung twice by shaitan. Shaitan stung you once, you fell into a sin, you did something wrong, you felt really bad, and you asked Allah to forgive you. Well, now when shaitan comes to you again, and to whisper to you, don't fall back into the same sin that you just regretted and you felt really bad after doing it, because you know that if you do it again, you're going to feel really bad. SubhanAllah. Any questions about this? Okay. So, inshallah, from today we're going to be starting a new unit in Fiqh, bi'idhnillah. We just finished the long unit of Salah finally. So hopefully you guys understand. If you guys understand, by the way, everything that I've explained about Salah so far, then and without exaggeration, you probably guys are more educated than 95% of the Muslims about everything around Salah. Because we talked about the pillars, the obligations, and the sunnahs of Salah. We talked about the different types of Salah, the congregation Salah, the individual Salah. We mentioned Sujood al-Sahw. We mentioned funerals. We mentioned Salat al-Khusuf and al-Khusuf. Talked about so many things. Right? So I highly encourage you, if you still things that you're not clear on, please make sure you ask, okay, or you go back to the lectures again. They're all recorded. They're found on YouTube. I share them whenever they get uploaded. I share them in the group chat. So please make sure you catch up on whatever information you are missing or that you do not understand. Inshallah, from today we're going to be starting the unit of fasting and the rulings and the fiqh of fasting. Okay. And of course, this is very timely because today is what? November? So we have December, January, February. So I know just a little over 3 months or so, we're going to be in the month of fasting, the month of Ramadan. So we should try to, memorize whatever we're teaching over here, such that you are, bi'idhnillah, ready for the month of Ramadan. So we started everything that we start with definitions. We start from the very basic. We assume that nobody here knows anything. What does fasting actually mean? Well, fasting in Arabic, it means siyam. The word for fasting is siyam or sawm. So siyam, the actual Arabic meaning of siyam means to abstain from something. Do you guys know what does abstain mean? Like, I hold myself back from something that I want. That's what abstaining means. Okay? Like, I don't know. Let's pretend this remote over here is some really delicious, juicy, fat shawarma sandwich. Okay? And it's sitting right here staring at me. And I'm just looking at it, and I'm smelling it, and I'm, I really want to eat it. But I'm stopping myself. Okay? Why? Because I don't want to gain weight. So this is called abstaining. Okay? Abstaining from something. Okay? So this is, in a nutshell, what siyam actually means. When we talk about sawm or siyam in terms of Islam and in the context of Islam, first, it has three things. Okay? Three pillars or three portions to the definition. First and foremost, it's a form of worshipping Allah. Okay? Because immediately, sometimes when you ask people, what does it mean to fast? They're like, just don't eat, don't drink. That's not what fasting means. Fasting in Islam means, first and foremost, it's a worship of Allah. You're doing it to please Allah and to get good deeds, so you're worshipping Allah. How are you worshipping Allah? By, number two, refraining, stopping yourself from eating or drinking or doing anything that invalidates the fast. So this is number two, and this is also important because, again, a lot of people, they just say, it's not eating and not drinking. When we say not eating and not drinking is part of it, but there's also other things that are not allowed for you to be doing while you are fasting. Okay? So fasting, you're worshipping Allah by refraining from all of these things, including eating and drinking, from Fajr until Maghrib. Okay? From dawn until sunset. Okay? So this is the formal definition of what does fasting mean. And fasting is always associated with a person's patience. This is where a person's patience is developed and trained and tested. Because it includes all different types of patience. When a person is fasting, the Islamic fasting, they're doing it includes all forms of patience. Because first of all, you're being patient by obeying Allah Azza wa Jal. And sometimes it might not be easy to obey Allah Azza wa Jal, but you're being patient and you're telling yourself, you know what? I'm not going to do this deed. I'm not going to eat this food. I'm not going to drink this water just so I can make Allah happy. So this is called patience in terms of pleasing Allah Azza wa Jal, in terms of doing good deeds. So that's one form of patience in fasting. There is also patience in refraining from doing things which disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? So certain things are even more prohibited during fasting, okay? Like speaking bad words and arguing and things like this, right? And so like you might be feeling like, oh, someone is irritating you and you're like, I want to raise my voice and start yelling at them. But you're like, you know what? Because I'm fasting, I'm going to hold off myself from doing that. So this is patience. Patience in terms of avoiding the prohibitions during your fasting. And patience in terms of also the divine decree of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because at the end of the day, we all know, especially in Calgary, this Ramadan, inshallah, is going to be a bit easier compared to the previous Ramadans. But we have long hours of fasting here in Calgary, right? And a lot of us, it's going to be in February, so a lot of you guys still have school during Ramadan. So it's not going to be easy, right? You're going to wake up in the morning. You already don't like waking up early in the morning, and now you're forced to get up. There's no breakfast. There's no coffee. There's no nothing. You have to take your bus. You go to school, and then you sit down in lunch, and then you watch your people, your friends, your colleagues at school. They're eating, and mashallah, he's biting his juicy shawarma in front of you, or their fries or drink or whatever, and you're just staring at that and like, bro, like I wish I can eat that right now, and your stomach is rumbling, and you're just trying to think of what my mom is cooking for, what my mom or dad, or they're preparing for iftar tonight, right? So this is patience in terms of you're accepting the decree of Allah upon you, right? And so this is why Siyam is always associated with patience. If you want to increase your patience and you want to become a patient person, fasting is your medicine. Fasting will train and will increase your patience, because now you're abstaining from all of these things to please Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is the definition of fasting in a nutshell. Now before we go into the rulings, inshallah today we're not going to go really into much into the rulings. What are some of the virtues, the benefits of fasting? Well, we did learn from different hadith, many hadith about fasting. So we're only going to mention a couple today. This one is going to be a long hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that Allah Azza wa Jal said. So this is a hadith narrated from Rasulullah ﷺ, narrating Allah Azza wa Jal. And he says, every act of the son of Adam is for him, except fasting, which is for me, and I will reward him for it. And this is an interesting phrase. What does it mean? What does it really mean? Every action is for him, except for fasting is for me. There's different explanations to this. One of the explanations, for example, if you think of any good deed out there in the world, it's all done usually by a physical action. And someone can look at you and know that you're doing that good deed. Like if you, for example, right now, after the class is done, you go upstairs and you find like a loonie or a toonie in your pocket, and you're like, you know what? I want to get some hasanat, and you're going to put it in the sadaqah. Maybe by chance, I look and I see you putting your hand in the sadaqah, in the donations box. So that I was able to see your action. Okay. After the lecture is done, we're probably going to be praying Maghrib. So I might see you walking up, making wudu or going up and then praying behind the imam or something. So it's something physical that's visible to everybody. But when it comes to fasting, nobody can really tell that you're fasting unless you tell them that you're fasting. Like right now, none of you guys know right now whether I'm fasting or not. I could be fasting, I could be not. You guys didn't see me eat or drink anything, but you don't know whether I ate something in the morning or if I didn't, or if I drank something in the morning or if I didn't. So this deed is hidden, and only Allah knows if a person is. So this is one of the meanings, that except for fasting, which is for me. Okay, so this is one of the meanings of except for fasting, which is for me. But the interesting phrase as well, which is worth to be discussed, and I will reward him for it. This phrase over here seems very standard, like Allah rewards everything. But What's interesting is we have not been told about what the reward of fasting is. Allah told us the reward. For example, when you pray, or if you recite the Quran, for example, every letter that you recite, you get 10 hasanat. We're told about some of the rewards of prayer. That prayer, between every prayer and a prayer, it removes your it removes your sins between a prayer and another prayer. Same thing for the wudu. For siyam, we are not told about anything. Allah chose to hide to us the reward of fasting. And Allah simply said, wait till the day of judgment to see how crazy the reward of fasting is. So this is meant for us as a motivation, that you go crazy trying to imagine how much of a reward you will get when you fast. Because there's, again, lots of struggle when you fast. Your mind is, you probably have a headache, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're like in a bad mood, you're like, right? It's not easy. But subhanAllah, because you're doing it for the sake of Allah, there is such an immense reward that it's not even mentioned for us. SubhanAllah. And then the Rasul he continues and he says, fasting is a shield for you. Shield from what? Shield from falling into sins. And then he says, he clarifies what this means. When anyone of you is observing the fast, he should neither indulge in vulgar language, bad wording. So if someone is fasting, they're not allowed to speak bad words. Okay, so it's not just don't eat, don't drink, don't use bad words. Nor should he raise his voice. So you should not speak. So you should speak softly. You should not speak loudly. And if someone reviles him, meaning makes fun of him, or tries to argue with him, then he should say, "Inni sa'im," that I am fasting. And the reason why, so this all connects to fasting is a shield, because when someone argues with you, you have the urge. Let me show him who's boss here. Let me argue back. I'm gonna destroy this guy in the argument, so that he will never ever dare challenge me again in the conversation, right? Or if someone insults you, you become angry and you feel like, I need to now snap back at this person. But when it comes to fasting, in the state of fasting, this becomes even more prohibited. And what you are told to say is respond to this, and you say, Inni sa'im, I am fasting. So it is a lot of patience involved over here. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? When a person finds himself in this situation, it's not as easy. And the hadith continues, and he says, by the one whose hand the soul of Muhammad is, so he's swearing by Allah, the breath of one observing siyam is sweeter to Allah than the fragrance of musk. You know that really nasty taste that you have in your mouth when you're fasting the whole day? And that nasty breath that you have? That smell, we don't like it obviously, but to Allah, it's more beloved to Him than the smell of perfume. So, subhanAllah, this is something beloved. So fasting is something very beloved to Allah. The one who fasts experiences two joys. One in this world and one in the hereafter. The first joy, the first pleasure, when he actually breaks the fast. And we all know the sweetness of that moment. Allah, when the Imam, or when my phone, or when the whatever says Allahu Akbar, mashallah, half the tables are in your mouth. Mashallah. Right? You could not wait, and you're so happy, and you feel the food coming down, the water is coming down, and all of a sudden you feel yourself revived. You were a zombie 10 minutes ago, and now, alhamdulillah, you feel yourself regaining your energy. So you feel a lot of happiness. And this is why everybody enjoys iftar, right? Like everybody's like, oh, bro, iftar meals, and then families, they go crazy. Instead of making one meal, they make like 5 different meals, which is not something that should be done. That's something for another day. But, the point here is everybody enjoys iftar. But there's also another joy when you meet Allah Azza wa Jal, and that is to receive your actual reward. So there is so much reward of when it comes to fasting. And it helps you build your self-control and build up your patience, and it's a great pleasure to Allah Azza. So you want Allah to be pleased with you. Fasting is one of the most noble deeds that you can do. Of the virtues of fasting as well, another hadith, that Rasulullah he says, there is a gate in Jannah called Ar-Rayyan. This is a famous hadith. And as we know, Jannah has 8 gates. There are 8 different gates to enter Jannah. And every gate is a certain specialty. Someone who fasts goes through a certain gate. Someone who prays goes through a certain gate. So some people, they will have all the 8 gates open for them. But there is a specific gate specifically for the person who fasts. And it says, those who observe fasts will enter through it on the day of judgment, and none other than them will enter through it. So there is a special gate for Jannah only for those who fast. And the Rasul he clarifies how is this going to happen. He says, on the day of judgment, it shall be said, maybe by an angel or something, where are the people who used to fast? Fast regularly, مش بس Ramadan, that's it. Where are the people who used to fast all the time? And there's a group of people that shall stand up and they shall follow him. This angel will lead them to the door of Ar-Rayyan, and they shall enter Jannah through that door. And after they enter, after this group enters, that door shall be closed, never to open again. So it's a very special standing, like a whole door in Jannah is open for people who fast regularly. And of course, fasting goes beyond simply the fast of Ramadan, and we're going to discuss this inshallah in the many weeks to come. So we should use these ahadith as a motivation for us. Again, I know it's not easy, but alhamdulillah, now we're basically quote unquote winter. It's questionable the weather out there right now, but the timings are now very easy. Like Maghrib is about to come in 30 minutes at 5 o'clock, and Fajr is coming in also not that. It's becoming later and later and later. So the duration of fasting right now is considered to be short overall, and it's going to continue to get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So take advantage of these short days and do as much fasting as you can. Like, yes, there's Ramadan. All of you have to be fasting in Ramadan, but I'm talking also about the additional fasting. But either way, this is a topic for another day, inshallah. We'll start this rulings of fasting with the intention. The intention. A condition for a valid fast involves forming the intention, just like any other form of worship. Okay, when you make wudu, you have to before you start making wudu, you need to have the intention. Before you start praying, you need to intend that I'm about to pray Maghrib. Okay, same thing when it comes to fasting. You need to have the intention that I'm about to fast. You don't just simply wake up in the morning and be like, okay, let me fast today. Okay? Well, actually, it depends, and that's what we're going to get to. But the point here, the Rasul ﷺ, he says, actions are judged by their intentions, right? In al-amal bin niyat is one of the first hadith we explained. So everybody should have an intention. Now, the intention differs, or the timing of the intention differs slightly for the obligatory versus the voluntary fast. Now, what about in terms of obligatory fast? This is, of course, the fasting of Ramadan, and also the fasting when it comes to making up whether certain days or expiating a certain sin, and you have to make up certain fasts or whatever. So an obligatory fast, the intention should be formed the night before. Okay? You should form the intention to fast the night before you actually start fasting. So when I say the night before, I mean you have from Maghrib all the way until Fajr to form your intention that after Fajr enters, I'm going to start fasting. I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink. Once Fajr is passed, if I have not formed my intention for this obligatory fast, then I did not do the intention of fasting. Okay? So this is important. And of course, the intention to fast, how do you do the intention? You do not say it verbally. I've said this many times before, with wudu, with salah and whatnot. You do not say, now I'm declaring, Ya Allah, that I'm about to fast tomorrow morning once Fajr enters. No, you do not need to do that. Okay? You simply need to know in your heart, okay, once Fajr enters tomorrow, I'm gonna start my fasting. I'm not gonna eat, I'm not gonna drink, I'm not gonna do any of these things. Okay? So this is how the intention of fasting is, to fast is formed. Also, of the common ways to form your intentions, actually, especially for those of us, who maybe for Ramadan you sleep after Taraweeh and then you don't really wake up for suhoor and you just wake up and you barely make it to Fajr or whatnot. Right? One of the things that you can do to form your intention is leave a few dates next to you before you sleep. Leave a few dates next to you at your bed before you actually go to sleep, and have the intention that I'm going to try to wake up and eat those dates for suhoor. Because by you forming the intention that I'm going to wake up at suhoor to eat these dates, by definition, you're also forming the intention that I'm eating these dates so I can fast. Okay? So this is another trick that you can do to form the intention to actually fast. This is in regards to the obligatory fast. Now the voluntary fast, the same thing applies, but there is a little bit more leniency in terms of the time. And we are told that for the voluntary fast, even if I did not form the intention at night between Maghrib and Fajr, and let's say I woke up in the morning and I did not eat and I did not drink. Maybe I'm doing a voluntary fast like the Monday and the Thursday fast, or the 3 middle days of the month. And I'm like, I didn't eat or drink anything in the morning. It is allowed for you to make the intention right then and there that, you know what, I'm going to fast for the rest of the day. I'm not going to, I'm just going to khalas fast. Because it's a voluntary fast, you can do that. And we have many narrations from the Rasul to do that, where he did that. One time he has mentioned that he entered and he asked Aisha radiallahu anha, he said, he asked her, is there anything to eat? And so this was probably in the morning or in the afternoon or something. So Aisha looked around and she says, there is nothing here in the house to eat. And so the Rasul says, in that case, I'm fasting today. So by him saying that, it's clear that, first of all, it's a voluntary fast, and that he made the intention in the middle of the day. Okay? So as long as, so to be on the safe side, always form your intention at night, know what you're going to do for the next day. For a voluntary fast, as long as you have not done something to break the fast, okay? Like if you ate breakfast, a whole, mashallah, meal in the morning, and then you're like, oh, actually, I was thinking I should be fasting today. Okay, from now on, I'll fast for the rest of the day. It doesn't work that way. Because you already ate, you already drank, you already did something that broke the fast, okay? But if you did not do something already to break the fast, then you can set your intention and just khalas, move forward with that. Does that make sense? Any questions regarding this? And inshallah, in the next coming weeks, we'll dive into the more details and rulings of fasting. Yes, question? Yes, obligatory 100% is more rewarding. We know this from the hadith that that there is nothing more beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal more than what He has obligated upon you. So the obligatory is always more beloved and more rewarding to Allah. But if you want to earn the closeness of Allah, you should increase in your voluntary deeds as well. Yes? What is the what? Gate number? There's no gate number. So there's 8 gates, but we don't know like the order or how they look. Like Allahu Alam, none of us have seen these gates. So there's not necessarily like a gate and then a label that says, oh, this is Bab al-Rayyan. Like just like here in Southwest, you have a men's entrance and a women's entrance. I don't know. That could be there. It could not be there. So Allahu Alam. And honestly, we don't really care, right? If I get to enter from Bab al-Rayyan, alhamdulillah, whether it's number 1 or number 8, right? Yes, in the back. Sorry, just repeat that question, do it a little bit louder. Boys, I'm going to ask you to quiet down. Girls also as well. So the make-up fast should be intended for before. Okay, whenever you want to make up a fast, because it's obligatory for you to make this up, right? It's not just a voluntary thing that you're doing. So therefore, according to what we just explained, you should have the intention the night before. Yes. The intention for Ramadan, you have to do the intention every day, or is it once at the beginning of the month? It's better to renew the intention every day. It's better to renew and it's always overall good to know what you're going to do the next day. But the point here is, don't overthink the aspect of setting the intention. Like sometimes you just by thinking, oh, I'm in the month of Ramadan, therefore this is the month of fasting. And you know, khalas, this is the month of fasting and I'm obligated to fast. This can be classified as an intention in itself, right? That I know that I'm in Ramadan, I'm going to be fasting. Yeah, but the point is like you don't wake up in the next morning and then you're like, should I fast or not fast? Oh, I guess it's Ramadan, I should fast. Like that kind of thing. Question?
Um, there's a specific type of door when you fast, like normally, not only is that one of the 8 doors?
So the Bab al-Rayyan is the bab for, is the door. It is that door.
Yeah, I know, but there's a different door for like it says that like if you fast like normally, like regularly, like you go to a different door, right?
Like if you do the obligatory fast, and inshallah everybody's going to enter through one of the gates, but we're told that the extra special gate is the Bab al-Rayyan. Okay, so you might be great, like there is another gate where other regular people would enter from, but the one specifically for those who fast a lot, Bab al-Rayyan. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, let's move on, inshallah. We're almost done. So we are still in the middle of the Battle of Uhud, and we were at the point where, of course, the Muslims were being attacked by Khalid ibn al-Walid and his group. Rasul realized this. He alerts all the Muslims around him. They start fleeing around and running around, and they start freaking out. We mentioned some of the tragedies, right? Some Muslims ended up killing other Muslims accidentally. We talked about Hamza, the one who got washed by the angels. We talked about Al-Usayrim, and there are many other stories as well. Of the famous tragic stories is the story of Hamza ibn AbdulMuttalib, and that's going to be, inshallah, what we're going to talk about today. Hamza ibn AbdulMuttalib, and this story is narrated to us, actually, girls, it's narrated to us by a Sahabi by the name of Wahshi ibn Harb. Wahshi ibn Harb. And Wahshi, he's narrating the story because he is the actual killer. So Wahshi is an interesting case. He killed one of the most noble Sahaba as a non-Muslim, and he converted to Islam later. And then he told the exact details of what he did to kill Hamza. The Rasul asked him, how did you kill Hamza? And he told him the whole story. And this is kind of the brief summary of what he said. Wahshi, he begins by introducing himself, and he says that I used to be a slave for a man by the name, so obviously he's from Mecca, from Quraysh. Wahshi says, I used to be a slave. So he's not a free man, he's a slave under a man by the name of Jubayr ibn Mut'im. Jubayr ibn Mut'im. Jubayr ibn Mut'im, girls, last warning, okay? Jubayr ibn Mut'im is the son of a man by the name of Mut'im ibn Adi. Mut'im ibn Adi, if you guys remember way back, we talked about one of the elders in Quraysh who was, he did not convert to Islam, but he helped the Rasul many times. So his father was a good man, but he died as a non-Muslim. Jubayr ibn Mut'im, he's his son. He later accepts Islam, but right now he's not a Muslim. And he hated the Rasul. Why? Because he had an uncle. He had an uncle of his who was killed by Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib in the Battle of Badr. So now he's angry at Hamza that he killed my uncle. So he commands his slave Wahshi, go and kill Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. And if you do so, then I promise that I shall free you. And so Wahshi, he explains himself and he says, the only thing that I've heard is that if you do this, I will free you. All he cares about is his freedom. He doesn't care who he kills, who he doesn't kill, whatever he does. And again, keep in mind, he's saying this when he was still a non-Muslim, right? Like he was doing this when he was a non-Muslim. So he's like, Khalas, perfect chance for me to go and earn my freedom. So he says, fast forward to the Battle of Uhud. I joined the army. And I was present in the Battle of Uhud. And then he even explains, and he says, I didn't care about Prophet Muhammad. I didn't care about Muslims versus Quraysh. I didn't care about the idols, pagans versus, I didn't care about any of the stuff. I only cared about earning my freedom. And so the only thing I cared about is locating where is Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. That was his only mission in his entire battle. It was not to even fight the Muslims. He only wanted to see and kill Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. So he says, I spotted him in the battlefield. And so I decided to follow him and to hide along the way. So basically the way that Wahshi killed killed Hamza was a very cowardly way. It wasn't like a tough fight or something like a fight to the death or anything. Because Hamza bin AbdulMuttalib is a big, strong, powerful warrior. Nobody was able to defeat Hamza. So Wahshi knew he did not even try to dare and fight Hamza. He knew that he had to use some cowardly method to go and kill Hamza. So that's what he says. I would hide behind the trees, behind the rocks, behind the bushes, behind this and that, so that nobody can see me. And then he said, I would try to come closer, 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 and closer to Hamza, until at some point in the battle, Hamza's back was turned towards me. So this is like the height of cowardice, that you attack someone when their back is turned towards you. So Hamza, he says he was fighting someone, and he had just finished killing the person in front of him, and his back was now exposed. And Wahshi explains that I am originally from Abyssinia, Habasha, which is of course modern day like Ethiopia / Eritrea and that kind of land. So he's saying I'm not originally from Mecca. He's like, I'm a slave from Abyssinia. But he says back in the days of Abyssinia, we learned the art of throwing javelins. You guys know what a javelin is, right? Like the spear, like you guys know what a spear is? The spear that gets thrown, okay? Which is, you need a lot of strength and power and accuracy. But Wahshi was a strong, he was a very expert thrower, javelin thrower. He says, back in Abyssinia, we learned how to throw javelins, and I knew that I would not miss my targets. So he says, I saw my chance. And he says, whenever I would basically about to throw, he says, I would shake my javelin. I would shake it. So he says, I shaked my javelin, I set my eyes on the target, and I threw with all the force that I could possibly come out with. And I threw my javelin, and it's like a lightning bolt, it struck straight through Hamza. Like literally, half the spear went into his body, and the other spear was on his back. Like it literally pierced the middle of his body. And subhanAllah, even with this, he says, Hamza has a spear in his body. Hamza turned around to see who shot him. And he raised his sword, like there's a spear in his body. He didn't fall immediately down and start screaming and whatnot. He raised his sword to attack, but he lost his strength before he could attack, and he fell down and he died as a result of this. And then Wahshi, he continues his story from there, and he says, I walked up to Hamza, I made sure that, that confirmed that he was killed, and I took my javelin back. I took my spear back, and khalas, mission accomplished. So later on, I returned back to Mecca, and I was freed, just like promised. Okay? And then in the narration, then he tells us, this is many, many years in the future. He says, in the future, closer to the conquest of Mecca, I heard that the Muslims were about to attack, or they were marching with an army towards Mecca. So I feared for my life. I became scared because I just killed the uncle of the Rasul ﷺ, and we're going to mention this. The Rasul ﷺ really, really, really cried over the death of Hamza because he really loved Hamza. So he says, I knew that the Muslims would not let this go, and they would look for me and they would want to kill me. So he says, I ran away from Mecca. And I went to a nearby city called Ta'if. Should be a familiar name. Remember when the Rasul ﷺ, they pelted him with stones? I went to that city because they were non-Muslims. But guess what? Mecca, fast forward, Mecca accepted Islam. Ta'if was not yet Muslim. But then, fast forward, Ta'if then accepted Islam. And so he was like, where the heck do I go? He was like, I didn't know what to do. I felt like there was nowhere for me to go. And until I heard someone telling me basically that don't you know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, don't you know that whoever accepts his religion, then he is forgiven from anything that he had done? So Wahshi then made up his mind, telling me basically that don't you know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, don't you know that whoever accepts his religion, then he is forgiven from anything that he had done? So Wahshi then made up his mind, I'm going to go to the Rasul ﷺ, and I'm going to accept Islam. But he was really scared while he did it. because he didn't want any of the Muslims to see him, because everybody knew the killer of Hamza, that it was Wahsh. So he, wore his cloak, his coat, his whatever, he did himself, and he made his way to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he went into the masjid, and he really, really quickly uncovered himself, and he said, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Rasul," before anybody could do anything, right? And so the Muslims and the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam realized who it was, and they said, "Are you Wahshi?" And he says, "Yes, this is me, I am Wahshi." And so the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asks him, "Tell me how you killed my uncle. Tell me how you killed Hamza." And he tells him the story that we just mentioned. By the end of the story, we are told that the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in tears and tears and tears, even though he's telling him the story many years after Uhud. But the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, subhanAllah, he still did not forget the pain of losing his uncle. And his beard was wet from the amount of crying that he was doing. And once Wahshi was done with his story, he says to him, "As for your Islam, we have accepted it. You're a Muslim. But as for you, O Wahshi, don't let me see your face ever again." SubhanAllah. Don't let me see your face ever again. Because you can imagine every time Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would look at Wahshi, he would remember his uncle. And he would remember his uncle, probably feel sad. So he did not want to get these feelings. So subhanAllah, this in itself was a punishment. Imagine living at the time of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and you are a Muslim and you could not even face the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like if he walks one road, you're forced to go to take another road. He takes a right, you have to take a left. And this was and this was the case for Wahshi for the rest of his life until the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away. So it's a very tragic story. It's a tragic story. Hamza, the death of Hamza, and Alhamdulillah, the conversion of Wahshi as well, which shows us, by the way, that Islam does forgive. Islam forgives anything that was done before the acceptance of Islam. So the killing of Wahshi, Wahshi killing Hamza, this was something that Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to forgive for sure. But subhanAllah, at the same time, you cannot get rid of the emotions behind this kind of incident. So this was the story of Hamza ibn AbdulMuttalib. And we're going to mention inshallah one more story before we wrap up. We're told in the Battle of Uhud, one Jewish man actually fought with the Muslims. And his name was Mukhayriq. Mukhayriq, that's what's his name. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam praised him, and he says, Mukhayriq is the best man from amongst the Jewish people. Why? What did Mukhayriq do? Mukhayriq, he went to his... Oh, it's not... Oh, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Mukhayriq, he went to his Jewish tribe while the Battle of Uhud was taking place. And he says, "Why aren't you guys fighting with them? Did you guys remember? Remember in the constitution with the rules of Medina, the rule was very clear. If Medina is being attacked, then the Muslims and the Jews and everybody else must unite together and fight against that enemy, right? But the Jewish people, they did not do anything. And so Mukhayriq, he got really angry at them. And the Jewish people, they started making excuses. They're like, "Oh, today is our holy day. Just like Friday is a special day for us, for the Jewish people, Saturday is a special day for them." So they said, "Oh, and the Battle of Uhud was taking place on a Saturday." And he said, "Oh, well, today is Saturday, it's our holy day, and we should not be fighting and whatnot." And he knew that this was them making excuses. So the Mughayr got very mad at them. He took his weapons and he decided to go and fight. And he even announced, and he says, "If I end up dying, none of you guys are getting any of my inheritance. My inheritance is going straight to the Muslims." Just out of his anger towards his own people. So he was a good person. He was a noble man with a noble cause, but he was not a Muslim. So he went and he joined the Muslims as a non-Muslim. And he fought very bravely with the Muslims, and he got killed as a non-Muslim. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam praised him for doing whatever he did, but at the end of the day, a person who's a non-Muslim is a non-Muslim. So this is always, this question gets asked quite frequently, I have a very, very good non-Muslim friend. They're really, really good. They're really honest. They're really nice. They're generous. They're this and this and that, but they're non-Muslim. What will happen to them? And the answer to this is Allah shall reward them in this world. They shall be rewarded in this world. And for many of them, being good people, they will live a very good life and a happy life in this world. But it's very clear in our religion. Someone who wants to earn Jannah must meet the conditions of earning Jannah. And the main condition of entering Jannah is to believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And so he died as a non-Muslim. But the Rasul praised him also. And he said he was a good man. Which also shows us another lesson that there is nothing wrong with the Muslims to take advantage or to work together, even if someone is non-Muslim, but they're working towards a goal that will benefit the Muslims. Okay? Some Muslims, they have this a little bit of a ignorant mindset that no, we should never ever interact with a non-Muslim. We should go away from them. We should not even let them into our masjid. We should just keep them away. And this is not correct. Sometimes, and we saw throughout the Seerah, like Mukhayriyah, and we mentioned even back in Mecca, when the Muslims were being persecuted, we mentioned that there were some non-Muslims who stood up for the Muslims, who fought for them, who argued for them. They would sneak them food and drinks when they were getting boycotted. So there's nothing wrong with the Muslims accepting help from someone who's a non-Muslim who wants to help them out. Okay? But at the same time, we don't say that, oh, okay, because you did this, you're going to enter Jannah. We try to convert them maybe. Okay, we try to give them da'wah and try to convert them to Islam. But at the end of the day, again, to enter Jannah, one must believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Any questions? No questions? Okay. I unfortunately did not add any questions by the end of the lecture, so we'll just pause here, inshallah, and we'll continue.